What was your house like when you grew up?
Well, I lived in different places, but one of my favorite places was my grandmother's farm. They had workhorses, cows, sheep, pigs, and I used to help my grandfather feed the animals and everything. He had 4 milk cows, and the horses was big black Belgian horses, huge horses. Name was Ned and Nell. And I used to go to the stall and hook him up to the thing and take him out to the water, and I was a little tiny thing. I could walk under their belly without ducking, and I wasn't afraid of them. And the farmhouse was wonderful. They had a wood cook stove, a wood heating stove, an old crank. You ever hear about those old crank telephone? 1 ring, 2 rings?
Yeah, we used to have one.
And you'd hear it go ring, ring, that's us. 1 ring is somebody else, so you didn't answer it. It's a lot of fun.
What was your favorite thing to do for fun?
Well, we had a down here, I think you call them creeks, and up there we call them cricks. But it was across the road, and it was a big water hole, and it was a big, it was a river, it was a Castile River. And there was a falls where the water come down, and when it come down, it made a big hole. You could actually dive in there. And it was for the whole neighborhood, and we had to walk across the field to get to it. And everybody was there all summer, everybody. We cooked out, camped out over there, and had a good time. It was a place to be.
Did you have chores?
I did. Saturday mornings was real interesting at our house. My mother would call us all to come downstairs, and there she'd be sitting there. She'd have a bowl on the table, and we have to pick out 2 pieces of paper. We went to the bathroom and the living room, and that's what we had to do for the day. That was our chores.
Did you get an allowance?
I did not get an allowance, but I learned ways to earn money when I was young. When I was really little, probably about 12 or so, I started picking berries for the neighbors and working in their garden. And I picked blackberries. They were very plentiful for 25 cents a quart. And then when I got 14, we could get a work permit and go get a job. Arkport was a big farming country, vegetables and stuff like that. And they grew a lot of potatoes and carrots and celery. And we could go work the fields, and I could pick up a bushel of potatoes for 8 cents a bushel. And we would work together, and about 10 of us. And that's what we did in the summer, was earn our money that way and babysit. I used to babysit a lot.
What school activities and sports did you participate in?
Well, I was in choir in high school and everything. In the sports, I was known as one of the fastest persons in junior high. I could outrun the boys. So I was really good in track and soccer. And I played basketball, but the game was different back then. The girl, being a guard, you could only go halfway to the court. You couldn't go the whole court. The rules were different then. Nowadays, you can go all back and forth.
How did you like soccer?
I loved it. I loved it. I was a center, so I pretty well followed the ball. I went to a central school. We go from kindergarten to 12th grade in New York. They're called central schools. Each county has one. I went to Arkport Central School, and it starts, like I say, in kindergarten to 12th grade, and that's where I graduated from. It's everything. You don't have to go to junior high to high school. It's just all one school, and it still is that way today.
What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up?
Well, talk about growing up. Is after high school, world events was I decided to join the Navy. And while I was in the Navy, we had the Cubin Missile Crisis. You probably don't know about that. But the Russians brought some missiles, put them in Cuba, aimed at us. President John Kennedy was our president. And he sent ships down there to say, the Russians, take your missiles back. And it was a very scary time for our country and a scary time for the world. Well, the Russians backed down, took their missiles back. But a few years after that, Kennedy was assassinated. President Kennedy was assassinated, and I was still in the Navy then. And when that happened, everything got what you call lockdown. You couldn't go on to base, nobody could come on. And it was a very scary thing. But we got through it. Our country's very strong.
How did it feel serving your country?
Well, at the time, I felt real honored about it. I was the first one in my family to go into service. I know at the time to make that decision, in the 60s, there wasn't, in this little town I was from, anything for women to do except to be a cashier. And when I found out that women could go in the service, I went and checked it out and learned about the hospital corps. And that's what I signed up for, and that's what I got.
Did you ever feel nervous about when you first went out to sea?
I never was able to go out to sea because back then, if you wasn't 21 years old, you couldn't go. They wouldn't let you go out to sea until you turned 21. But I did want to go and serve on the USS Hope, but I couldn't do that.
Did you ever feel embarrassed to stand up for yourself?
When I was younger, I probably did. But as I got older, I learned how to stand up for myself. I think it goes with maturity. And even as you get older like me, things don't bother you like they did when you're younger. And I think you're a little bit older and wiser. The only thing is, if the younger people would listen to the older people, you could learn a lot. But that's normal. That's normal. Like, if your grandfather talks to you, listen to what he's got to say, because he's probably right.
How is the world today different from when you were a child?
Well, when I was a child, we could go outside and play and everything, and you could walk to your friend's house without being afraid of anything. You know, get out of sight. Nowadays, parents don't let their kids. You couldn't. If you lived in Arkport, you couldn't walk to Pleasant Gardens. If you was in Pleasant Gardens, they would let you walk to Marion. We did all that when I was a kid, and nobody bothered you. And if someone stopped, they probably knew you. You knew everybody. It just wasn't a scary time back then.
What do you know about your family name?
Well, my maiden name is McKibben, and I learned that Mac, MC or MAC, means children of. Gibbs is the south side of the mountain. So that's what my name means. And it's Scotch-Irish.
Are there any stories of famous people in your family?
Yes, there is. I don't know if it's to brag about, but Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany was a big dictator. And he's Queen Victoria's firstborn grandson. And my great-grandmother, Jo, J-O-H-E, was his second cousin from Germany. And when she came over here, she didn't want people to know she was here because they was beheading everybody over there. There was a lot of undercover stuff going on. It was during World War I.
How do you meet your husband?
I met my husband in the Navy. That's how I got to North Carolina. Doug is from North Carolina. And I met him and we got engaged. Then he was sent to Midway Island, so we waited a year and he'd come back. And we got married then. And I was the hospital corps at that time. And then when I got discharged, after a little bit, I went to school for nursing, became a nurse.
How do you like living here?
I love it. I love it down south now that I've learned how to cook as a southerner, because when I first come down, I didn't know how to cook as a southerner. And the story I like to tell is about the pinto beans. I didn't know how to cook, and my husband wanted pinto beans, so I boiled them hard for 45 minutes. And I put them on the table, but they went. But that's all I knew. It took a while to learn.
What was the most valuable thing you learned from your parents?
Well, I learned a lot from my parents because they talked to us kids about things, but borrowing money. My father, he took me one time, and it's called side street lenders. There's banks. You can borrow money from banks. And then there's the little side street lenders. They charge a lot of interest, and he said stay away from them. I remember that.
What accomplishments were you most proud of?
Probably graduating from college and joining the Navy. And I'm proud now have been married 48 years to Douglas Johnson. And I have 2 children, Neva and Jody. I'm very proud of that.
What is one thing you most want people to remember about you?
I think it's my smile, and that I gave, and I did what I could.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson.
You're welcome.